Anybody else wishing to speak? It's not on the agenda.
You don't have to do that, Dave.
I'm sorry.
He goes, good morning, I'll tell you. Good to see you. Everything good? Peachy Jim?
We will call our July 11th meeting of the Macon County Board of Commissioners to order. We'd like to welcome all of you in attendance as we partake the business of Macon County tonight. Are there any announcements? Mr. Manager? Mr. Bill?
Just one, I'd like to announce about our world changers that are in Franklin, Mr. Chairman. We have almost 300 world changers. It's making a difference in about 30 Maconian lives, changing their world. So if you get a chance to see any of these young people, they're staying over at the middle grade school and at the intermediate school. The churches are feeding them during the day. They're doing everything from new roofs, painting, new windows, making a difference in a lot of Maconians. We're working with the Macon County Housing Program. So if you see a chance and see any of these young folks, be sure and thank them.
Bill, thank you. Anything else? Announcements, good. We'll all rise. We'll stand for a moment of silence. I'll ask Commissioner Gillespie to lead us in the pledge.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda is a public hearing. Mr. Wayne Moss, floodplain ordinance appeal.
Mr. Chairman, if we could remove that item from the agenda.
Okay.
Take it up in August. Had a little hiccup on getting the notice out.
Okay. Mr. Moss here. Public comment period. Looks like we have a few people signed up to speak tonight to address the board. Is there anyone else that hasn't signed up? We saw we had a few late arrivals there. Anyone else? Okay. I'm gonna call you up just to remind you of our protocol for our board. We try and allow 5 minutes for every speaker. I hadn't even looked at the topics yet here, but looks like most of them are for the same thing. Again, we try and respect y'all. Actually, ask y'all respect our time as well. We have a long night here planned before us. And with that being said, Mr. Bill Crawford. The subject is clean energy resolution. Welcome, Mr. Crawford.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. I would like to present what is commonly known as the Clean Energy Resolution. The resolution simply says that the Macon County Board of Commissioners endorses the transition from a fuel-based economy to a 100% clean, renewable energy-based economy by 2050. In 1949-50, when I was in the first grade at Colassaga School, there were 350 parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere. It is now 400 parts per million and rising. Our fuel-based economy is like a big ship that will only slowly stop before it turns around. Undoubtedly, the parts per million of carbon will grow much higher. The goal is that there will not be a further rise of more than 2 degrees Celsius in this century. The last 15 years have been the hottest in recorded history. We all know that there are millions of refugees, particularly in Africa, that are moving because of drought. We here in Macon County were smoking 2 packs a day last fall, indirectly from climate change. There are extreme droughts and rainfall in the U.S. It is worth noting that some of the most continuous rainfall records from the 1930s to the present actually were recorded here in Macon County at the Coweta Hydrologic Lab. What does this problem of climate change have to do with the Macon County Board of Commissioners? This resolution is part of a grassroots movement endorsed by many levels of government across America. Numerous scientific organizations, colleges, universities, all to encourage the acceleration of the switch from fossil fuels to solar, wind, and other forms of renewable energy. Time is of the essence. Commissioners, I ask you to add this resolution to tonight's agenda and to its passage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill.
Joan is Palmaroos. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
Yes.
Good. Well, welcome.
Good evening. My name is Joan Palmaroos. I'm a resident of Macon County. Tonight you may be voting on a resolution to guide our county toward 100% renewable energy by 2050. I'm here tonight representing a huge group of your constituents who are passionate about a planet that will be fit for our children, our grandchildren, and in my case, our great-grandbabies. It sounds like a daunting task, but look at what has been achieved environmentally in the last 33 years. That's only 33 years to 2050. Beautiful banks of solar panels all over our state, wind farms in every corner of our country, and electric cars. Volvo announced last week that as of 2019, not 33 years, just 2 years from now, they will no longer be manufacturing gas cars, only hybrid and electric. A recent Stanford study declared that gas-powered vehicles will vanish in 8 years in the study. The cost curve says that by 2025, all new vehicles will be electric. All new buses, cars, tractors, vans, anything that moves on wheels will be electric globally. The only thing stopping this sooner is the price. By 2022, when prices go down to $20,000 per car, the tide will be unstoppable. Your town budget might have to include battery chargers on Main Street. New businesses to the county should be encouraged to go green. As prices go down, it's actually profitable in the long run to be green. Franklin can join Boone, Watauga County, Silva, Webster, Waynesville, Chatham County, and most recently Asheville, who are on board with a similar resolution under the auspices of the North Carolina Climate Solutions Coalition. Buncombe County is going to put it on their agenda, I think this month or next month. In 1994, Carl Sagan declared, "The Earth is the only world so far to harbor life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. Visit, yes. Settle, not yet. For the moment, this Earth is all we have to make our stand." By adopting this resolution, you'll tell everyone you care. Are the aforementioned grandchildren going to look back and say, "Why didn't you do something?" What were they thinking? When we reach the tipping point, no amount of money is going to be able to fix our planet. There is no planet B. Thank you.
Hey, Joan.
Thank you.
Ms. Jen? I just want to read your shirt again. As a landscaper by profession, I really like that. Can y'all see it? It's hanging on by the seed of my plants. Thank you, Jen. Ed Morris?
Thank y'all for allowing us some time to share our ideas. When I read that resolution, I was pretty taken back to completely go renewable energy by 2050. But I would certainly encourage y'all to pass that resolution and start working towards that. And some of you may not have any idea what going solar means. Well, I want to just share some of my personal experience with solar energy. About a year and a half ago, I put solar panels on my house. Actually, I had passive solar from when we built the house in '81, and later added a geothermal system, and all that kind of saved me money. But when I saw the figures on these solar panels, I was kind of blown away. Since over the past year and a half, I have saved $2,542 in my electric bill. I've generated 25 megawatts of megawatts per hour of energy, and that equates to saving 20, and this is just on my house, 34 panels. We got it facing south. I've saved 20 tons of carbon dioxide that would have gone into the air to produce the electricity that our solar system on my house saved. And that's the equivalent of planting 991 trees. And we all know trees absorb the carbon dioxide from the air, which is a good thing, but I don't think I'm going to be planting 991 trees in my yard. But that's the amount of money I've saved and what the effect it would have. And some of these things, whether we actually get to completely renewable energy, I think the county may be interested in implementing some of these ideas. When my son, who's taken over Franklin Health and Fitness Center, saw the numbers I was getting, he said, that would be a good thing for Franklin Health and Fitness Center. And sure enough, he got a nice grant to help him put up a bigger system than I have. He has 50 panels. And since he put his up about the same time I did, and his revenue he has saved is $4,624 over the last year and a half. That is the equivalent of 79 tons of carbon dioxide that would have been polluting our air if he hadn't put that in. And that's the equivalent 1,803 trees. So this is obviously, I think, a better way in spite of, I believe in planting green, but it's hard to plant 1,803 trees. And a few other things. He has, we've used solar to heat our swimming pool and showers for 10 or 15 years, which also saves us a lot of money at the fitness center, about $1,000 a month in saved electricity put by using solar hot water. And he just recently, and this may definitely be something that the county may want to think about, he just added switch from fluorescent lights, like you have most of the place in this building, to LED. And that's going to save him $500 a month in electricity cost. And I don't know how that equates to number of trees and the amount of CO2, but he's saving actually more on that than he is from the solar energy he's producing. Another thing you may want to think about in your schools or wherever, we have 2 waterless urinals. Well, what does that have to do with saving energy? Well, if we had regular flush urinals, we save 200,000 gallons a year by having those 2 waterless urinals. That's a lot of water. And of course, from the county point of view, if you're not having to process that water and treat that water, that costs somebody a lot of energy to filter that much water, to have clean water that you aren't using. So again, that's saving an energy consumption. And another thing, this is mainly talking about carbon dioxide, but so much air pollution is produced by especially coal-powered and even gas-powered electricity. And before I moved here in 1978, I was in Galveston, Texas, nice, pretty island in the Gulf of Mexico. But I didn't even realize it while I was there. But 20 miles away was a big oil refinery, and we got a lot of that pollution. It turned out where I was living had the highest cancer rate of any place in the country. And anytime we're using, especially coal or any of this, we get pollution. And when we were considering towns like Sylvan, Canton, and Waynesville. And as soon as we saw the pollution that was in the air from some of the plants that have now cleaned up their act some, we said, the heck with that. And we found nice, sweet Franklin, and we loved it. But one thing I didn't realize was that all of Western North Carolina has very high pollution levels. And before the Clean Smokestack Act, where we would get all the pollution from the TVA, it was really bad. But Western North Carolina still has very high ozone levels, which is especially bad for people with lung disease. North Carolina, and usually when we're thinking about ozone and pollution, we think about places like LA or New York, or at least I do. But North Carolina has a higher rate of asthma prevalence, which is 9.2%, which is higher than the rest of the country. And we sort of think, well, we're in clean air here. But when we get these inversions, especially, there are some places in Western North Carolina that have 126% higher rate of childhood asthma than it is for the whole country. So that's a major problem that we can improve by switching to alternative energy. And I know sometimes all these statistics, they aren't very effective in getting you to, and my wife told me not to do this, but I'm going to show you a picture. And this little boy is probably almost as cute as maybe your grandkids. He's Weston Lee, my 2.5-year-old grandson. He was born with just one lung. He had to have several operations, and he continues to have a lot of bronchospasm. But when those fires hit, he was in big trouble because he couldn't cough up the mucus, and he got infections, almost died. And, you know, if you're thinking about doing something, don't think about yourself. Don't even think about your kids, but think about your grandkids and your nieces and your aunts. And with that high rate of asthma already present, I think it's imperative that y'all stand up and say, we can do better than this. And I'm sure you can. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Norris.
Mr. Falo, there's a place over here. He's part of
Good. John Gladden. Welcome, John.
Good evening, gentlemen. These comments address the relationship between carbon and climate. Probably should have gone first, and I hope they're really unnecessary for this group, but we'll go ahead. I was trained as a scientist and worked for 30 years in the energy and environmental fields, so there's some experience that I can rely on there. When trained as a scientist, there are really two things that you learn very early. You have to learn them right. First is to separate what you believe and what is fact, and those are not always the same. The second is the difference between correlation and causation, which is even more important for a scientist. In the climate change discussion, there are certain facts that are agreed upon. One is that the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is at historical highs, and the change has occurred within the last century. The second point is that global temperatures are the highest in recent history. These two sets of information track together. One increases, the other increases. That's correlation. It's not causation. When you combine these facts with the known physics about heat absorption by various atmospheric gases, like carbon dioxide and methane, then you can move from correlation to causation. 97% of relevant scientists and most nations agree that the increase in global temperature is a result of increased carbon dioxide concentrations in the atmosphere. This is not new information. This relationship was hypothesized over a century ago. The next step in determining why CO2 levels have increased, that relationship is tied to the increased burning of fossil fuels, coal, oil, and natural gas, over the past century. This is carbon that was buried underground millions of years ago. The line of logic is pretty straightforward. Increased burning of fossil fuels leads to increased concentrations of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which produces increased global temperatures. The consequences of these changes are dramatic and will be somewhere between serious, if addressed now, or disastrous if we don't. Already, between the thermal expansion of water and glacial melting, we see exceptional flooding in coastal cities. My son, who was stationed in Norfolk, Virginia when he was in the Navy, and local businesses along the coastline were experiencing unprecedented flooding frequencies, which lead to increased business closure and costs of doing business. The same applies in Charleston, South Carolina, if any of you have visited or spent time in Charleston, South Carolina over the last several years. Coastal cities are paying very close attention, and the cost to manage these changes in places like Norfolk, like Charleston, like Savannah, like Miami, the costs are astronomical and will go easily into the trillions. Can this be reversed? I don't know. However, if we don't act now to reduce the release of carbon dioxide from fossil fuels, we know what will happen. Beginning to act now can reduce the ultimate damage and costs that we as taxpayers will end up having to pay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. We also have Mr. Keith
He's on another.
Conover, I think I think he's already on our agenda.
Yeah.
Correct. Keith, is there something else you want to address us about, or just the broadband? Okay, we'll hold on to you for our agenda. Any comments from the board? Any questions?
This is his comment period, isn't it?
Just comment period right now. We'll move on to adjustments, additions to the agenda.
Yeah, you can.
Are we gonna make a motion on this, or?
If you want to add it to our agenda, I think that would be,
You can add it to the agenda.
whenever we get to that point, or we can do it now, additions to agenda, that's where we are.
Isn't this already on the agenda, the resolution?
It
I don't-
is?
No, it's not.
It's not.
Oh.
We don't, is that,
Make a
would you
motion
like
this
to?
time?
No, do you want to add that to the
Add it to
agenda?
To the resolution.
Okay, just since that's, we have several people here regarding that tonight, let's move that as A-1. So we'll take that as first item on new business. Any further additions?
Mr. Chairman, under, I guess we put this under, probably come under old business or wherever you want to put it. We have a report from the Osage Community Association. They'd like to revise the list of work.
Let's do that. Under old business, it'll be 10B. What's the title? Osage Community Association
Revision of category.
revision. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Manager?
No, sir.
Chester, anything?
No,
Gloria,
sir.
I think you had an additional budget amendment, is that correct?
Yes, I had emailed that out today. I have hard copies as well. If we could add, item under 12B budget amendments, instead of that being 5 through 10, that would be 5 through 14.
Mr. Chairman, if we could, under old business, add 10C, and that will be the scrap tire RFP that we had discussed and tabled last month. We have our solid waste director, Mr. Kristoff, here and prepared to answer any questions the board might have.
I thought he was going to go to 11.
Yeah. Kidding, Chris.
It's all right. Y'all have all drunk Brittany Kool-Aid.
I mean, it's just fat. Can't like deny it.
All right, I have one item I would like to have removed from the consent agenda under 12E, Macon County Public Health billing guide and fee schedule. There's one item on there that I think this board needs to address. So let's go ahead and move that whole item out of 12E from the consent agenda. And again, just because y'all are here, we'll try and move y'all forward. We'll put you at A2. That's okay. Is that okay with everybody? Any other changes or additions?
Motion to approve the agendas.
Motion to
Mr. Chairman.
approve.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Gillespie, all in favor? Aye. Reports and presentations. Item A, Western North Carolina Association of Firefighters. Mr. Warren K. Welcome. I think we have, 7 fire departments?
We have 8 tonight.
8? Good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm actually here tonight to introduce the folks behind me, but we're here for some presentations from the Western North Carolina Association of Firefighters that were made to some local departments. We actually have a department from Swain County and some departments from Macon County here tonight that were made possible by the efforts of Lisa Leatherman and Duke Energy and the cooperation of these folks here tonight. So without any further, I'd like to introduce Chief Andy Webster, who is the president of the Western North Carolina Firefighters Association. He's also the chief of the Cool Springs Fire Department in Statesville, North Carolina.
Statesville.
So he's come a long way.
Good. Welcome, Chief Webster. Thank you.
Yeah, most of y'all will be in bed by the time I get home. So. But it is a beautiful country. Pretty close, but it's a beautiful country up here, and I love the fact that those folks was talking earlier about, you know, smoking a couple packs a day when those fires was going on. So we're here to give some money to some of those that help put those fires out. And with our friends at Duke Energy, they gave us a grant of $75,000 to help fund those things, and we put a pretty simple program together that they asked for those funds. So some departments in your county and the neighboring Swain County. So we were invited up. We thought we'd recognize them here, and this was a good forum.
Awesome.
So they're all lined up. They all want a check, and I got them. So right now I'm pretty doggone popular. So I'm just going to read your name off. I'm going to have to hold it out here because I ain't going to put my cheaters on. It makes me look older than I am. But to West Swain Fire Department, $14,447.
Good one.
I'll go for Burningtown. I know there's another word after that, but I can't.
Burningtown,
all right. You have to pronounce it.
I
I'll give you some down my way for now. Thank you, sir. $2,100. Cowee, $3,250. Otto, $1,974. Nanahala, $4,205. Now, Chief, you said the other one. Clark's Chapel, $3,322.
Behind you.
Thank you. And last one, West Macon, $1,185.
Color Sage actually is here now, so we have the other one.
Oh, I got that. It's in your pocket. Man, you scared me there, I was like, Lord, what I do?
I've got it.
He's caught.
I ain't gonna make it out of Macon County without being checked. Say it again.
Color Sage Gorge.
You say it like it sounds. Color Sage Gorge.
Dean's handwriting ain't the best one. $2,485. You can read that. Mr. Chairman, thank you again so much.
Thank you
It's
for
a
coming.
beautiful area, and hopefully we'll have a meeting up in this area. We have 4 a year, so hopefully one of your departments will be willing to host, and we'll be back up here
You want to
again.
introduce your guest? Is it with us?
Mr. Todd McMurray, he and I are gonna be a race to get home. He's from Shelby. Rick,
22 red light.
huh?
There you go. 22 red light.
22. Rick's close by. Rick Livingston, he's the chief up Mills River, so we got to drop him off in Asheville, and he'll find his way home. So,
He's a
but,
property owner making.
yeah, he is a property owner. He owns the. He didn't tell us all that coming up here until we got here, and he starts talking about a cabin on the river. I'm like, why didn't you tell us? We'd have stayed tonight instead of me driving back to midnight. So, but
On behalf of the county, thank you, gentlemen, and your
Thank you.
association. Lisa, please thank Duke Energy.
Very
as
much.
well. Gentlemen, chiefs, assistant chiefs, representatives, thank y'all.
yes, sir.
She's got some.
Thank you.
The lady with the money had some
Well,
comments.
thank you, Chief. And really just to recognize, North Carolina last year faced 2 historic events. Let me turn this way. The Hurricane Matthew, which impacted eastern North Carolina, and the wildfires that we had that impacted the foothills and the mountains of North Carolina. And, Duke saw a need to find a way to support the local fire departments and the firefighters who volunteer their time, who work tirelessly alongside of resources that came across from our nation to fight the fires here in western North Carolina. So this is just an honor, and I'm glad to have this money come back into the communities I serve, and I'm glad to see West Swain here. I'll digress just a little bit to talk about West Swain and their historic efforts on the silver mine, where there were, how many homes did you say?
250 homes were successfully saved.
And if you have driven up Silver Mine after this event, there are char marks to the foundation of homes. It was phenomenal, the work that occurred, not only in Swain County, but Macon County and all the communities that Duke serves to protect personal property. So as a little bit of background, this grant covers materials that are not reimbursable with local, state, and federal funds. So certainly glad for the partnership that we had with the North Carolina Association of Firefighters, who oversaw the selection process and made the decisions toward awarding these grants. So thank you. Appreciate the work that you guys do, and I would be remiss not to say in front of the county that I live in, certainly appreciate the efforts of Macon County Emergency Management and all the fire departments that protect and serve our citizens in Macon County. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you do in Swain County.
We're gonna get something to eat and go home. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Follow them out.
As a property owner and taxpayer in Macon County, I just want to thank you guys for the good job that you do. I know you don't hear that very often, but I think you do.
Thank you.
Sir,
Where's your cabin on the?
it's on Jarrett Creek, Nanahala Lake. See y'all.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Good yourself.
item 9B. We're going to have an update on from the Broadband Committee along with a presentation by Mr. Keith Conover.
Mr. Chairman, before we get started, and Keith, thank you for being here tonight. Appreciate you coming. What we've laid out, the Broadband Committee felt like it would be good at this time to give the board something tangible that will kind of take the board through not only the 7 months of meetings that the Broadband Committee has undergone up until this point, but kind of capture the whole history of how broadband came onto the agenda, came onto our local agenda, and that dates back to August of 2016 when the planning board had turned it over to the Board of Commissioners. Since then, the board authorized a broadband committee to begin moving forward and basically conduct an analysis, just kind of see what was going on with respect to broadband in Macon County. We knew it was a huge topic for many individuals and communities within our county. So this was an education process, the 7 months that the committee has met. As you can see here, if you'll turn to the timeline on page 4, we have conducted again 7 meetings over this 7-month period, which began in December of 2016. We've gathered a lot of information and we've confirmed what many people would say is the obvious. There is a lack of broadband availability in Macon County. But aside from that being the obvious, the information that this committee has gained, the resources that we've utilized, the folks that we've talked to, it's built a foundation of knowledge which this committee feels strongly will put us in a position to work alongside individuals, companies, moving forward in hopes of expanding broadband in Macon County. The brass tacks of this whole document, basically what it is the correspondence that we've had with providers. It's a summary of all the meetings, minutes of the meetings that the Broadband Committee has had. And the brass tacks of all this is page 1, the recommendations that the committee will be coming forward to the board with tonight. The first of which Mr. Conover will address when he comes up here in a second, will be to organize and host a provider meeting in Macon County. This has been successful, as he will say, in many other counties in broadband expansion efforts, and we look forward to working with him in that process. We've also, in talking with numerous communities, numerous individuals that are in the provider business, we felt like a good way for the county to be able to kind of encourage this was to look at some of the ordinances that we have in place, such as our wireless telecommunications towers ordinance, the subdivision ordinance, and in looking at these ordinances and reviewing them, find ways that we can promote wireless broadband expansion within these communities. During this process, we talked with many communities who have individual efforts going on their own. So anything I think that we can do and look at our ordinances, the subdivision ordinance, we discussed open ditch provisions that are in place in many ordinances, many counties across the state, and things of that nature that will promote broadband expansion within the communities of Macon County. Also, the recommendation to work alongside the Southwestern Commission. They have just received a grant for a regional consultant to come in and work with us as a region in expanding broadband. And last but not least, it comes as a recommendation for the board to take what the committee has brought tonight and kind of give us some direction moving forward. If this direction is acceptable to the board, we would certainly like to continue working. The work of this committee has been fruitful. As I said, it has been a knowledge phase. We have conducted a survey with the school system, as Mr. Conover will tell you, that will provide a basis for the provider meeting that we will be discussing here in a minute. So a lot of knowledge gained, a lot of work done. We feel like, again, it is a foundation moving forward into the solution phase for what we would term the broadband problem in Macon County. So with that being said, Mr. Chairman, you can review this packet at your leisure. I briefly hit on the recommendations of page 1. Again, that pretty much is the product that has came from this 7 months of meeting with the broadband committee. And Mr. Shields, if you would have anything to add to that, I'll turn it over to you at this time.
I want to say thank you to a lot of the people who've been a part of this broadband committee. Mr. Jenkins, our EDC coordinator, he's been a very important part. Jack, where you at, Morgan, Warren, a lot of people within the community that we've been able to collect a lot of ideas and things from. We are very much aware that there's a two-pronged problem. There's an internet problem and there's a cell service problem. Some people get the internet, but they don't get cell service. And some people have cell service, but they don't get internet. And we realize this problem. And while we're trying to work through this, through the leadership of Mr. Kahn over there, that's what we're trying to do, is fill those gaps there. And we live in an area that we know we are disadvantaged, but we're advantaged in a lot of ways. But through the state and the broadband committee, my own committee, through the state, they're making a concerted efforts to help out the rural areas, especially in Western North Carolina. And we have the Southwestern Commission. They're looking at this total region. So we're looking at things from a regional setting, a county setting, and a community setting. And we're trying to work through all those gaps and try to help people to have better service or any service there. And it's been very interesting, learning quite a bit, but we understand the economic value of cell service and internet service, what that means to our community from an economical standpoint too. And through the leadership of Mr. Rowland, you surround yourself with good people, they make you look good. Thank you, buddy. And appreciate what he's done.
Thank you, Commissioner Shields. Mr. Conover?
Here, Keith, take that with you, read it on the way back.
I should read this on the way back to Asheville.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. How you doing? I'm gonna turn my back to you. I apologize. That's kind of the setup you got here, so I'm gonna talk to the commissioners. Thank you very much for inviting me. I will tell you this much. I serve on many broadband committees. I have 30 counties on the western part of North Carolina that I serve. And I've been doing this job for 4 years, longer than anybody that's done this job has done it. So I've had quite a bit of time. But this is not the first time I've been in Macon County. Tommy Jenkins and I have worked together before. We've helped some folks in Scaly Mountain. I've met with folks in Otto before, Tony Dinkins and some other folks to try and help out there as well. Most recently, I was at the LBJ school. I call it a school. It's a job corps, I understand, but to me, they're educating people, and that's part of being a school. And we're looking to try and help them with their broadband experience because it's not where it should be, and they certainly have an excellent on-campus network that is just awaiting the right kind of bandwidth. When we start this process, I usually come in at the beginning and I make recommendations. I recommend that you form a broadband committee. You've done that already. I recommend you put the right people in a room. I've met with your broadband committee. You've done that already. I recommend that you do a survey. You've done that already. So there's no other county I've ever worked with, and I have over 30, that has put themselves in a position that Macon County has. But the next step that's very important, as Derek mentioned, is the provider meeting. And that's important for a couple of different reasons. The main reason it's important is because you want to make sure that you're caring for neutrality. Because while some providers may not spend a dime to deploy in rural areas, they will spend plenty on legal fees if you do not invite them to be part of a solution. And that's my job. I send out the invites. I bring the providers together. I present at that meeting. It's a meeting that's typically hosted by the county, but I spend most of the time. I get an introduction at the beginning of that meeting, and I spend the rest of the time speaking to the folks in that room. And they're all providers that I've worked with in other counties. So they're familiar with the agenda and what's to be expected. It's also one of the shortest meetings you ever go to, because we're going to present them with a lot of data that they can take back. But again, the most important thing is we have brought them all to the table so they understand two things. Number one, they can be part of the solution, and if they're not then someone else may be part of the solution. And as a result, they may lose some customers. That's why neutrality is very important. That's why I highly recommend it, and that's why I think I've been injected into this process at a very critical time. And it'd be my pleasure to work as we go forward with the committee to make that happen. Once that occurs, and we've had that meeting, then we are free to work with anyone that's willing to help out in Macon County to provide service. And we encourage that, because what we have seen in other counties, and I'll just pick off a few, in Graham County, we had a provider come to us and say, listen, we are not going to deploy any further in these two areas where you have a need. So we came up with an alternate solution. It was a fixed wireless solution at the time. It's a little different than mobile broadband. It's point-to-point fixed wireless. And almost immediately after the company that said we are not going to provide service started losing customers, they made investments and started providing service in that area. So there's two things at hand here. One is to improve the broadband experience. The other is to maybe wake up some folks that thought that they had an area locked in as far as service goes. And as we all know, the need for broadband and the need for speed is not going away. It's the opposite. We need more bandwidth. We will need more in the future. And the idea here is to encourage that. We invite everyone to the table, and then we work with whoever will work with us. I've done that in many counties. I have current deployments going on in counties like McDowell, Avery, Rutherford, Graham County, as I mentioned, Jackson County. In Jackson County, we have a gentleman who came to the table and decided he was going to start an internet service provider. He's interested in coming to the Macon County provider meeting, and he's done a very good job. He's got over 500 customers right now. So it's not that it's impossible to solve the broadband problem, but you need creativity. Waiting and hoping that funding will come to make it happen is not a strategy. You need to have a plan. I've seen success, so I can help with that plan. And I look forward to doing that in Macon County, where we've seen impacts in other counties as well. You have several things in your county in your favor. You have Balsam West Fiber. You have incumbents that are not making a lot of moves but have been given federal funds. You are an ARC county, so you can go after federal funds through the Appalachian Regional Commission. Today in McDowell County, there's a fixed wireless company that I helped get ARC funding for that is deploying in McDowell County. Avery County just got their pre-application approved and is working on their formal application to do the same. And again, this is twofold. One is going to create the ability for more folks in Avery County or McDowell County to have service, but the other is some of those larger providers are going to lose customers and potentially invest in order to keep some of those customers. Okay, when you're dealing with larger companies, they have regional budgets, so not only are you in competition with other counties, but states are in competition with other states, and when you can be disruptive and create a situation where customers might be lost, you increase your chances of having that funding shift to the counties and the areas that you would really like to have it happen. With that, I'll just talk briefly about my experience. I had 27 years with AT&T. I know it's hard to believe, but I was at AT&T before the divestiture, Bell Atlantic, and then Verizon. I'm a fiber optic engineer. I understand how this stuff works. I understand how much it costs. I understand the language. And it's important for me to say, after everything I've just said, that it does not make the providers bad people because they won't deploy in rural areas. They have internal competition where if they don't meet their return on investment, they won't have a job. I know because I've walked many people to the door that haven't done their job. So the idea is, how can we creatively solve the problem given the environment we're in? And I'm a technical guy. I am not a political person. I leave that to the folks that make laws and rules. That's their job. I can tell you whether it'll work or not in the environment that I'm given. And if that shifts based on laws and rules tomorrow, I can still do the same job. It'd be my pleasure to help in Macon County, and I'll entertain any questions that anyone has.
What is your current position? I mean, I missed that, I think, there.
I am one of 3 technical analysts for the state of North Carolina in the Broadband Infrastructure Office. It's under the IT department, and we have I have a leader, myself and 2 other gentlemen. There's a central person that does it and an eastern person for the state. I am the western person. So I have 30 counties in the western part of the state. I live in Asheville and serve those 30 counties.
And all your fees, everything's funded through the state?
Everything is funded through the state. Any other questions for me?
When can we do the provider meeting? Like tomorrow or?
We have a
14.
We do, I believe it's the 14th of August, right?
Yes, in the recommendations, we
Yep.
have August 14th.
August 14th. So that invite will go out before the 14th of this month to those providers. That is typically a very productive meeting, but a very, like I said, a very short meeting. We're going to present them with the results of the survey. We're going to also go out and take a look at your vertical assets, your towers and things like that, because we talked a little bit about wireless technology. So what we would like to do is present a map that shows not only the demand, but also any vertical assets that are available, so that any provider looking at those can match demand with the assets to see where there might be a fit. And then my job going forward is then to try and make those connections. You can't connect to the internet, you can't connect people to the internet till you connect people with people.
And we're already in the process of getting those maps together for Mr. Connolly.
And again, I got to tell you that you've done a wonderful job, because many of the things I would have recommended if I had come in 7 months ago, you have absolutely done. So kudos to the team.
While we're ahead.
We're not ahead.
Yeah, we're not ahead. I always tell people, thank me when people have their service. Don't thank me for speaking at a meeting.
I think since we have the media here, on the 14th, it's a closed meeting.
Yes, it is, sir.
And there's a reason for that.
Yeah, that's consistent with the meetings that have been held throughout the state. And we just, we like to do that the same. Like I said, that's why I try and care for the invitees, because what we like to do is make sure if the county was ever challenged by any provider about whether or not there was an invite or not, you can point those folks to the state, and I maintain that audit trail of who was invited, who was not invited, and that way we kind of keep it consistent across the entire state. I hope everybody understands that. That's kind of how we operate.
I think there's a flow of information that happens when providers come. If they're going to be here, they're the ones kind of moving us to the closed meeting type of thing, right?
That's correct, because if it's not closed, there's a chance that they could be challenged at the meeting, and next thing you know, they're not at the next meeting. And we really encourage them to come in because we want them to help. We want them to help us out, and we understand it's passionate, but we really don't want to have anything in the way that's of moving forward as far as, folks that may impede that process.
Mr. Jones is our legal person. Do you see anything here that?
If it's the broadband committee and there are no more than 2 members of this board taking part in it, there will be no problem.
And that's traditionally been the case in every other county we've done it in. Any other questions for me?
In Graham County, I was in Graham County last week, and they're pretty well, some of them are amazed of the progress that they hope is going to happen and is happening in Graham County.
And there's still a lot of work to do.
It's a tough place. It's like the topography is tough.
Absolutely. And we're working now in Swain County, which is also, a tough county. It's not easy.
Either.
Yep, it's funny because when it comes especially to wireless product, our mountains can be our best asset and sometimes our biggest challenge.
Right.
And the idea is to look at them. I'm a field engineer, so to me, going to a site is a lot more important than sitting behind a desk or having a meeting, because you find that there are diamonds in the rough in many of these counties that I've been through.
But 3 years ago, they had no hope.
Right. Absolutely.
So, and that's, with the Shields Committee, that's where they was at. That's where we were at too. So,
Absolutely. Definitely.
good news.
Thank you all so much. I hope you have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want this back?
No, I want to shake hands. I appreciate it.
Perfect. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Is there any further questions on that? Any comments? I presume, we'll just keep this under old business and keep reports, or y'all got me on where we need to go with this?
Mr. Bailey, you might want to see if he needs to say anything. He's the top corner.
Come on, Arthur.
If he's good, he's good. He's been in the meetings with us.
I think this report has kind of laid out the direction of things we're working on, none of which are gonna cost any money. So I guess exactly as you said, just to continue keeping the board apprised of the progress.
Okay. Give me just 1 second, make some notes here. Next, I'm moving on to old business, landscaping and paving at the Robert C. Carpenter Community Building.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First and foremost, I'd like to say that this is a separate project from the Carpenter interior renovations itself. We had discussed improving the grounds out there, being paving of the parking lot to the front and to the rear of the Robert C. Carpenter building. As we got in those discussions, as Jack can attest to, we looked at the possibility of creating a road that went around the back of the community building. So we have included that. That has been included as an alternate in these paving estimates that were submitted. As you can see here, with the parking lot paving, Bryson was the low estimate we received. That is a guaranteed estimate. The 280 foot of additional road, be it the desire of the board to move forward with that road, that again goes around the back and connects the parking lot of the softball field with the main parking lot. That additional 280 foot of road at $10,220 would still give Mr. Bryson the low bid here on this paving project. If we do indeed decide to move forward with the road, there's $5,000 in fill dirt cost that will be needed, as well as $5,000 for a guardrail, which would bring that total paving estimate to $120,221. Something we do need to keep in mind and talk about is the stream bank restoration project. They opened bids on it today. As you know, that washout that is at the creek back there behind the between the two softball fields where they play Industrial League and the child softball field, we're getting that 100% repaired. Once again, our Soil and Water Conservation Office has received grant funding to do that work, and it should be completed by the end of September. They are going to have to go in and out of the parking lot, though, while they're hauling the dirt from that section of the project. So in terms of speaking of these paving bids, that's something we do need to keep in mind as we discuss these paving bids moving forward. So we couldn't essentially start paving until after that project is completed at the end of September.
So will the bid remain the same?
I talked with the low bidder today, and they said yes, unless there was some sort of substantial increase in the price of asphalt, which I didn't foresee.
You mentioned the additions of the fill dirt and the guardrail. Will Bryson's be handling that as well, the low bidder?
I think the county will be performing that work.
The county will be. So those are just budgetary figures?
Budgetary figures, yes, sir.
And this money is?
That money would be appropriated from fund balance in the event we decided to move forward with this project.
That road, it's gonna be one way?
Yes, sir, and I have some maps for you all.
With all traffic that exits out the south entrance?
Yes, they will come from the softball field through the main parking lot and exit out that entrance where we're gonna line up with Ingalls and put the red light there. We just felt like it would be a lot safer option and give a unified method of exit from that.
Will the addition of that road, will we lose any parking because of the addition of the driveway?
No, right now it is just a bank back there. We will lose a tree in the front of the building, and As far as I'm concerned, that's it. That is a fire lane there right now. So we would lose no additional parking places.
Thank you.
Did somebody say originally, Mr. Manager, that was the original plan? When that was originally put, when they put the softball field down there?
I have no idea.
I heard,
It seems like
when I was out there one day, somebody, I don't know if that's true or not, but it makes sense. Certainly makes sense.
It's, in my, if I may speak, in my opinion, that's gonna increase the safety of people leaving and entering that place. As all of you can attest, you've been there, and the majority of the people that use that, the rec park, are either elderly folks or young guys, young kids with new driver's license. And so that's two groups that we don't want to jeopardize by trying to shoot out in traffic. 441 North. Somebody said, will there be a red light there to catch them? I said, yeah, how many people have you seen run a red light this week? So that's one that would get them. So in my opinion, if we could make it one way entering into the softball field, one way around the building, and then everybody has to exit through the traffic.
We need to vote on this, sir.
Makes sense.
Commissioner Gillespie just mentioned something to me. Do we need to vote on these issues as separate? I'd like to see a plat on it.
I think the first thing
First, of how that'll work, but.
Yeah, the first thing we would need to do is authorize me to enter into a contract with Bryson Paving in an amount not to exceed the amount specified on the bid sheet.
Is this new road part of that?
Yes, sir.
It's part of his bid?
Yes, sir.
So it's still showing an entrance coming in there.
We still would be exiting over here as well.
It's showing an entrance and an exit on both sides. Well, I guess you got that parking.
This is the turning lane.
I understand I see, so there's no, well, it's showing a turning lane here too.
Derek, on the north side, we're gonna have two-way traffic.
No, that's just a working drawing in progress as far as that. We tried to monkey with it both ways to see which way would work the best, and I think that just a one-way in. and
So
no
the
out.
traffic on the north side is one way in, like what you were saying, around
Yes.
the building.
So Jack, if you're headed south on 441 and you approach this new red light, it's showing a turning lane coming into the, will that
Yes.
remain?
We worked with the DOT on that, and from what I hear, they're gonna do that, the turning lane.
Okay, but that person is, I'm just thinking, if I'm driving south 441, I get to that red light, pull in the turning lane, I'm not gonna be able to take a left into the community building, I'll have to do a U-turn, go back 100 yards.
No, the traffic light is right in front of the entrance to the community building. Yes. We worked with Ingalls to ensure that.
Okay, I'm completely misunderstanding y'all's
Okay.
description then.
If
So the
I may-
red light's gonna be the entrance then,
Right here.
Right here.
and all exit goes behind the building and out.
No, they'll exit through the same way.
Better than this parking lot goes out. People coming here, there's gonna be people coming north, so there'll be a barrier here anyway. So there'll be no left turn. The only way you can get in there is this way, the only way you get out of this parking lot is driving down the building. It's already closed.
Okay, so this entrance, you can come in both ways?
Yes.
Okay, I'm with you now. It's not the way I understood it. That makes sense.
This is the new barrier coming all the way down from McDonald's.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we authorize the county manager to move forward.
Have a motion on the floor?
Accepting a low bid by Bryson Contracting for not to exceed $120,221, and funds could come from fund balance.
Second.
Motion on the floor and second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Moving right on down that list to the landscaping. We had received 2 bids for basically completely landscaping around the whole facility, as well as the bid from Jameson here, which was actually the low bid, was going to landscape along the back and side, as well as the things in the parking lot. What are those called? The islands. The curbs in the parking lot, the islands in the parking lot. We compared, Jack has reviewed these bids. Jack, you want to talk about kind of how they compared?
The reason that Dirk had to put the 11,000 for RR, that's river rock, instead of mulch, his original bid had mulch, and what the county's trying to do is make it as low maintenance as possible. And the mulch we have to renew every year, the river rock, we don't. So yeah, Clark's included that, but it did include some of the other features that we asked for.
Is there a design difference as far as, did everybody bid off the same plan, or?
Yeah, we've already laid out our sidewalks and everything around there and the entrances, so everybody had the same thing to work with.
So my point is the same plant material going around the building, or is it different plant material?
It's different plant material.
Okay, so they just provided, so you're not comparing apples to apples then?
As far as plants, no.
Okay.
That was their design.
Okay.
So the Jameson would be the low bid on this. A no bid was submitted from Cheryl. Clark was at 31.8, so 31,199. That would be the low bid, and if the board desires to move forward with that, would authorize me to.
Derek, I'd like to, if it's feasible, I'd like to just set my eyes on this.
Absolutely.
What he's planning on doing before we approve it.
Sure.
If that's okay with you, Joe.
Absolutely.
If we're not comparing, if they're not bidding off of a similar plan, I mean,
That's the last thing you'll be doing, right? That's the very last thing.
We'd like to get the plants in time to take grip before winter time. So we'd like to do it here to go through growing season.
It's not August ain't gonna make a difference.
Probably not.
the best time to plant is October, so we got plants.
Sure.
I'm pretty positive.
And lastly, the last thing on
the
here.
seed of my plants.
Last thing on here, if you'll remember the design of the rendering of the new community building, the part where they stuccoed out the old cylinder that they put the roof on, the stripes that were on that were part of that rendering. We had gotten an estimate on those for $3,000. So I would recommend, that is available in contingency fund. At this time, I would recommend, so we can move forward with that. It was not included in our general construction contract. So moving $3,000 from contingency would enable us to put the finishing touches as displayed on that rendering on the building.
And that's project contingency.
That's a project contingency,
Right.
yes.
Just to make sure that's
Motion
clear.
to approve the striping.
Motion to second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. If you gentlemen haven't had a chance, or anybody, I guess it's just us for now, it's probably still a closed construction site before I say everybody, but if you gentlemen have a chance to go take a gander at what's happening out there, it looks really good. So, Jack, kudos to you and your staff for handling that. Like you heard me, but.
No, Chris is talking to me. He's not.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, Chris.
We're just paying you compliments, Jack. It's looking really good out there.
Well, thank you. A lot of people work really hard.
It looks great. The gym was bad. I mean, that gym.
All right, old business, 10B, Colasaja Community Association, revision to
Yes, sir.
contract, I believe.
Secretary Treasurer, Mr. Dave Autry, is here and present
Welcome,
in the
Dave.
rear. If you remember, this board was good enough to recognize the need and appropriate money for them. The folks in this community have done a great job with their work. If you remember when Attorney Jones put it together, he put 4 specific things for the money to be spent for. Well, they have saved money on 2 of those things, especially on the floor system, which they've had a lot of work went up there, and on the electrical work. And they'd like to take a portion of that money, Mr. Chairman, and apply it to the painting and to rework some of the interior and exterior walls. They have, so far to date, they've saved about $7,480 on the floor and about $4,520 on the electrical. And they'd like to take that around $12,000 and apply it to work on the interior and exterior walls and apply it to the painting of that building, which needs to be done. They've done an excellent job up to date. If you've not been up and saw the work that's been done on the building, I think you'd be surprised. They've done just an excellent job and worked very hard. So I'd make a motion that we change the scope of work, and by adding interior and exterior work, no more money to be appropriated, just to change the scope of work, and add a number 5 would be painting and wall repairs inside, interior and exterior, and appropriate that money as needed.
I'd second that.
Motion second. Chester, do you have any issues?
What I would need to do is just a very simple modification to that arrangement.
With no charge from you either, right, Chester? Always something.
No worries. Thank you, Sue. We have a motion to second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Thank you, Dave. Thanks for all the hard work from everybody.
Can't wait to see it.
Now I gotta go to another meeting.
Good luck.
Good luck. Safe travels. Moving on to new business. A1, clean energy resolution. I'm gonna start this off. I'm gonna say I have not read this yet. So I'm gonna, while you gentlemen are talking, I'm
I think
gonna
Crystal needs
scan it
something.
real quick.
Or
So.
something.
10C.
Oh gosh, Chris, I'm sorry.
Hey,
Or not.
it's okay.
You can read
I
what
did it on
Chris
purpose.
talks.
Okay, I'll read what Chris talks. Sorry, Chris, come on up. Scrap tire.
It's okay.
RFP,
You're welcome. Good job.
all business.
Anybody need to use the bathroom, get some
Thanks,
water
Brady.
before I get started?
No, you've walked us to death, Chris. Go ahead.
Are they implying that you're gonna talk a long time, Chris?
Somebody started a rumor that I'm a little verbose when I get up here. I can be as brief as you would like for me to be. This was in your agenda packet last week, month. So I couldn't attend the meeting last month, so I think it got tabled to this month in case you guys had any questions about the process or about the program in general. I added to the attachment sort of some of my own comments about the program, but it's a service that we're mandated to provide and reasonably happy to provide. I just wish the state would leave our funding alone, but that never happened. So this is what we got. We put out an RFP. We had one respondent, which is really the only one I expected. We could have gotten 3, but it would have all been the same company with this DBA list that Chester put in our interim contract. So I told him not to bother, just to give me the one. So they're keeping the per ton pricing the same as our previous contract. However, they do have a rather aggressive fuel surcharge that starts at $1 a gallon, which is fairly ridiculous. And they also have a CPI, but since this is a year-to-year contract, I don't know that we really need to deal with that until it comes time to renew. And if we don't like it, we just won't renew. Of course, they'll still be the only company, but we'll cross that bridge. Any questions?
Is there any other option?
That was mine.
No. I mean, there are some companies, Alabama, Virginia, a couple of small processors in the eastern part of the state, but frankly, they're the transport to go 300 or 400 miles is going to overtake the tonnage cost. So.
Sounds like a good business opportunity for some young entrepreneur.
Well,
Is
yeah.
this the same company that all local, that everybody uses?
Well, about between 95 and 98 counties use one of the companies on this DBA list.
I mean, the one you got back, I mean, on
Yeah.
our surrounding neighborhood.
Oh, yes.
That's the only one that does it.
Yeah, and we have, through a competitive bid process, we have left this company twice. And they, over the course of a few years, they have either acquired the company we went to or the assets of the company that we went to.
This most recent event.
A heavily regulated industry.
Yeah.
Where do they haul to?
Our tires go to Concord, North Carolina, where they are ground, and then they do have a landfill, which they have reported that they are landfilling about 5% of the tires. Only whole tires are banned from landfills. Crumb rubber, cut-up tires are not, as long as they won't hold water. But to get them in that state is a fairly expensive endeavor. The rest, the bulk of it goes to TDF, tire-derived fuel, for asphalt plants, and I mean, we know how good tires burn. I mean, not personally, but we've seen evidence. South Carolina uses a lot of crumb rubber in their drain fields. It's not really taking hold as much in North Carolina to supplant the drain field with the little wrappings of popcorn packing peanut thingies. You can use crumb rubber, but that's more of a South Carolina thing. Not enough tracks and fields to use up all the tires we generate. I don't have a problem. I mean, obviously I don't have any issue with U.S. Tire. I wish that there was some competition. But actually, I wish, since there isn't any competition, and since the program generates more than enough revenue to operate the program, I would like to see the state take the program back away from counties, but that's probably not going to happen.
They presented a proposed contract.
They presented the bid to the RFP. Should you approve this, we would need to have Chester, I guess, cite the documents and develop a contract, not unlike the interim contract, and then authorize Derek to.
Are we going to attempt to negotiate the fuel surcharge with them? Or just ask them for a solid number for a 1-year period, and we'll talk to them this time next year about next year?
They're like people hauling concrete. They don't have to go.
Yeah, they're not going to move off of. They're not going to move off of
You
this.
just need to know that the price they give you is considerably more than what they gave you.
If you did look at the my recommendation from last month, at today's fuel prices or at last month's fuel prices for diesel, we're looking at 30 cents a mile fuel surcharge, and I probably put the mileage on there at 176 miles one way. Does that sound familiar?
How do they figure their implementation of surcharge when fuel prices are actually going down at this point?
Well, because their table starts at $1.25.
We haven't seen fuel prices at that level in how many years?
I agree.
It's not changed since 2011. Concrete has not changed.
Chris, what do we spend with them last year, just out of curiosity, if you know?
$91 a ton. About 70,000, 80,000 maybe.
So it doesn't make enough sense to buy a piece of equipment to take care of these
No,
tires.
it's just not only the equipment, but then the upkeep of the equipment. If you can imagine a grinder that's grinding wood waste and try to use something like that to grind tires, knives are constantly need a replacement, and et cetera, et cetera.
Are they hauling now? I mean, are they?
Yes, they have been hauling our tires since January, when they
With
took
no
over.
contract?
Well, no, we had an interim contract that lasted until April, and then they have graciously extended that until we could conclude our business.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to approve. Second by Commissioner Gillespie. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Chris. Sorry to skip you there. You sat down, I looked right over you. All right, let's move on. Did I miss anybody else? Let's move on to new business. A-1, clean energy resolution.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the resolution supporting a state goal of 100% clean energy by 2050 and the creation of green jobs.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I need a minute to read this, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead, if y'all want to discuss while I'm reading, I just haven't had a chance. It wasn't in our,
I appreciate y'all coming. I can see it's a pretty lengthy document. And one speaker said it was a glaring report. And I will concede that we do have climate change, and a lot of that is natural cause, volcanoes, the recent forest fires, solar flares, whatever. But to pin it down into a report like this, that it's simply human-induced climate change, is I can't, we could debate each one of these issues, and they have been debated for years, and they'll be debated for years to come. And I will concede to climate change, but I will not concede to simply human-induced climate change based on burning of carbon. So I can't support the document. Another thing that concerns me, the action required on this under Section 1, the state of North Carolina and the United States shall establish. What authority do we have to induce that action as a local board? If someone, we can.
Public opinion.
Pardon?
You're very powerful. There's 1,000 of you guys running in counties. If you get enough of them, the people that make the decisions will do that. I mean, they still, somebody else has to do it to do that, but your voice is very powerful.
Yes.
And may I ask a question?
So, sure, yeah.
You say you can't account for 100%, but even if it's something else, if there's something else causing natural elevation of that, but clearly some of it is human cause.
Oh, I don't.
So
Yeah.
what difference does it make if it's some of it's human cause? You do what you can to counteract that, and if it's nature or volcanoes or whatever, you do the best you can.
And I have a background in science, and I work in public utilities across the United States in water recycling, reusable water. And what's happening, and a lot of you all witness that you're doing it personally, that you're becoming conscious, you're making efforts to reduce your reliance on electricity or on coal-fired or propane-fired plants. That's great, that's commendable, and that's happening all across the United States. One lady addressed that in the last 33 years, what's happened is remarkable, and it is. And I think that private individuals and I think businesses are working towards that goal. But for us to say they shall do that by a certain date at 100%, I think is a little beyond our capabilities. You're shaking your head. It's why you.
The technology is evolving so quickly, and I'm not sure I buy your argument about how much is human-induced and how much is not. I've never seen a report that indicates that solar flares are having anything to do with carbon dioxide evolution, and I haven't seen anything indicating a change in volcanic activity or any of the other natural sources of carbon dioxide over the last century.
But carbon is released through more than one source, right?
Oh, of course.
With a carbon cycle. I mean, the forest fire reduced a tremendous amount of carbon. How you measure that?
The thing that has changed has been the extraction of carbon that was buried millions of years ago that is now being burned.
Exactly.
So that's what has changed in the last century.
That's a storehouse of carbon, just like a tree is a storehouse of carbon.
No. The storehouse of carbon in trees goes through a relatively short cycle compared to the carbon that was buried millions of years ago.
But at some
which has
point,
been sequestered all of that time and is now being released.
Yeah, and they're going 15,000 feet deep to get it.
That's correct.
Yeah, I'm working North
And
Dakota
we're burning it.
occasionally.
And we're burning it.
In the fuel, I mean, in the drilling industry, the fracking industry, and they're 15,000 foot deep.
Yes, all
Which
of
brings
that.
up the interesting point, why do they call it a fossil fuel? It's 15,000 feet deep.
Because it was buried in millennia ago, millions of years ago.
It's an interesting
That
point.
organic carbon was buried and through geologic processes, which I'm sure you're familiar with, turned into natural gas and coal and oil, depending on the original source of the organic carbon that was laid down.
And to this point, it's been our primary resource for generating electricity. And I applaud each of you and private businesses and individuals who are trying to accept alternative energy sources. I think that's absolutely a goal we should be working forward. But to commit to the fact that we humans are creating this projected doom and gloom, just us, is I can't ascribe to that completely.
Mr. Chairman, this is the same argument that if it hadn't happened, that the scrubbers would not have been put on the TVA. We would not have the DACO plant cleaned up the way it was, coming across the border. If Commissioner Higdon's argument was the same, we would have still had the same problem we'd have had coming across, we'd have had 20 years ago. So this is just another step in, North Carolina is still one of the most polluted states in the nation. Fact. That's just a fact. I mean, you go been to all 100 counties, I know that. So you can read and look at Duke Energy as they continue to go away from coal. There's a reason for that. So, it's what this is. It's saying that they shall. If we as commissioners can put any pressure on this legislature, we've not had much luck, but that'll change one of these days. And 2050 is a lot. We won't be here, but somebody might. And
My grandson.
and them grandyoungins will be. I ain't gonna have no. I'm gonna have any. Paul's got a few. So this resolution just states that it's just something that it's the only place we got to live, and we live in the most beautiful part of this 100-county state. And it's just this little resolution just states that we want to try to protect what little we can while we're here. Real simple. So call the question, Mr. Chairman.
I was gonna make some comments first before you, any comments?
Chester, have you had a chance to read this, and are you comfortable with it?
I think it's a matter of politics as opposed to legality. I mean, the truth is that you have no authority to bind either the state or federal government. All you can do is, as I think it was Dr. Morris indicated, you do have some political clout, and people in Washington will listen to this board at some level.
Thank you. Mr. Beal, do you know where the Association of County Commissioners is on that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, all across the state.
Are they supporting this resolution?
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if they saw the resolution or not, but they're all, the green jobs is one of the growingest, the most active part of new jobs as they are. I'll tell you that. That's one of the most active part of steel. And you go to Swain County. Swain County is probably leads the state for its size in solar energy. If you go to see the farms in Swain County, I don't know how many acres of solar energy Swain County has. Lisa could probably tell you that. But Swain County is probably one of the leaders in the state per capita on acres of solar energy. And there's a reason for that. They need the money. But I'm sure that almost any board would look at this the same way we would, and Chester's right. We're not never gonna make them clean up coal ash like they did in Lee County. I went to Lee County, I went to see when they dumped the coal ash. I've been there, done that. So, I mean, these are things just to say that we as a county support all we can to keep our air as clean as possible for future generations. That's all it's saying. If people listen to it, fine, and we hope they do. That's all this resolution is saying. It binds nobody to anything. But we certainly hope they pay attention to it. It might take 1 year, it might take 10 years. It puts it on record as we support it.
Can one of y'all tell me who made this resolution, who created it, what organization or?
It was started in California, Stanford University, by some scientists there, and it's across the country as this resolution started here.
Okay. I'll state my personal feelings as well. I really don't have any issue at all and agree wholeheartedly with the principle behind this resolution. And I underlined one sentence here on the second page. It said, have made a, quote, have made a commitment to reduce greenhouse gases. And as my feelings on this board and being as a representative in this county, I don't have any issue with that sentence at all. I think it's omnipotence of us for many reasons to make that commitment. And this county has shown and displayed that since I've been a commissioner, from such things as moving to natural gas for some of our buses, et cetera. But when I just, again, this is the first time I've scanned this, but when I just air breezed through this entire article, I do have some issues with basically with how some of this is written. And it's not that I disagree with it, I just don't know if I have the knowledge or the background to agree with it. So I hate when these things get tossed on us like this. I feel like you got to vote, but I don't know if I'm prepared today. Like I say, I agree with the principle of it, but again, if I'm we signing my name behind it, I don't know if I agree with everything that's written in here. And I'll give you an example. The last sentence on the last page, it says, whereas low-income communities and communities of color in North Carolina and the United States are inordinately exposed to pollution. I mean, it sounds like it might make sense, but is that a true statement? I don't know. I don't know. But again, I don't have a problem with it, agreeing to it. In principle, I would just like to see it simplified and just say, hey, here's what we're going to do.
Well, the board certainly has that ability to look at it and temper the language where
Hang on a second.
not going to do so.
Okay. Sir?
All of that preparatory stuff, that's not really in the resolution. If you look, there's just really one paragraph there at the end. That is the resolution, in my opinion. The rest of that is sort of preparatory information.
Mr. Crawford is correct on that. The opening paragraphs are, as he indicated, prefatory. The actual resolution is contained in the lower part of the document. However, those recitals are presumably the basis for coming to the conclusion that you need to pass the resolution.
But it's not part of the resolution.
Table it
Correct.
next month and give it a little time.
Not the actual resolution itself. That is correct.
Mr. Chairman, I made the motion. To me, it's just a common sense thing, even in the title, supporting a state goal of 100% clean energy by 2050. That's a goal. I think that's great. And I think that's why we develop things out there. You got to develop goals, and this is a goal that you want to do in North Carolina. I briefly went over all this stuff. It gets to be a lot of numbers and stuff, but it's just in the title of it, it's what I agree with. Supporting a state goal of 100% clean energy by 2050.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with that.
I think you need to go to the resolution. If you're going to vote in favor of it, you need to be supportive of the actual resolution language itself.
Mr. Shields, I agree, or Commissioner Shields, I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying. There's some of the stuff in here I'm just not
Oh, yeah.
100% consistent with, but I would like to see it, again, as Charles, I'd like to see a table, and let's go over this and let's try and get this right to where we're all in agreement and can maybe come up with something. Because if we vote right now, it's not going to go through. That I can say. Well, I say I don't know how Commissioner Gillespie feels. I haven't heard, but I'm still a little
Could you identify the resolution again? What's
Section 1.2 is the resolution. That is the resolution.
down at the bottom,
Yeah.
what I say?
That's where the actual action of this board.
The rest of it is preamble to the resolution.
And I'm currently okay with that section 1 personally, if we'll get rid of the preamble.
You're not voting on it.
I understand, but it's attached to it. It's a supporting document.
Cross out what you don't like in that preamble and vote for the
Again,
resolution.
therefore, we're trying to get, trying to get to that.
It's on the same document. It's
You feel better to table it, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, I'm fine if we'll
You
get
feel
rid of the
better to
preamble,
table
so.
it and
Yes,
work
that'd be
on it?
all. Y'all wanna discuss this further?
I'm ready. I'm ready. I mean, it's real simple.
I don't see any problem with section 1. You protect the earth for current and future generations from climate catastrophe.
Is,
I agree, it's the preamble, and I'm sorry I'm being a hiccup in this situation.
That's
Not a
a
hiccup.
I guess I'm
that's
guessing.
right. Is the shall establish, is that
Yep.
necessary?
I think it should say, honest, I think it should say Macon County, the state of North Carolina, and the United States should try to establish a transition. Any thoughts on that, gentlemen?
Well, if you don't tell the state, you don't give the state an out if you don't have to. They'll make their own out. As you can see in the United States, they've already made their own out, so, but if you give them an out, they'll take it. I mean, this is just stating that the state of North Carolina, the United States shall establish a transition, and that's just giving them a little bit more incentive to do so. In my opinion, Mr. Chairman, that's all that's saying.
Is shall establish not a, is that kind of like an ultimatum?
There ain't no ultimatum. We can't give them an ultimatum. We're just saying that, but if you say, well, if you want to do that, that's fine. No, we want you to do it, so you shall do it. That's what we're saying from this little county.
I guess where I'm having a hiccup on that, I still think as if we're telling them that, then we should abide by it too, Ronnie, so that's why I was thinking we should probably try to make every effort to do that, so that's why I wouldn't mind seeing Macon County added to that section 1, and
Well, that's not a bad idea.
should do our best to establish a transition, and we should continue like we have been, so.
Yeah.
You're actually already doing that. You just spent a bunch of money on windows at the Robert C. Carpenter building.
That's right.
And I
Will
think
save a
the
lot,
energy audit.
lot of fuel.
And we're doing the energy audit, and I think the county manager's working on the LED lights, and,
So would you gentlemen consider that?
Mr. Manager, would you be okay with that language?
I'm okay with whatever the majority of this board's okay with.
That's a great answer. Thank you, Mr. Manager. I appreciate your input, sir. Do you think
You
if
have a
we,
problem with that? Mr. Shields, you made the original motion. Would you have an issue with
read
that?
what you got, Mr. Chairman.
Macon County, the state of North Carolina, and the United States should make every best effort to make a transition from a fossil fuel-based economy to 100% clean renewable energy. The rest of that's fine.
That's fine.
Do we have to address what we're presented with, or do we have leeway to alter the document?
Well, you do have a motion on the floor, and unless gonna
With a second.
withdraw those
Well,
motions,
that
the
language
second
and
does need-
remove the preamble. It's just a very short resolution.
You'd have to retract your motion. I'll retract my second. We'll make a new motion.
I'll retract my motion.
And I'll retract my second.
Now, what it's.
And then you have to make a new motion. You want me to make the motion?
You put it in Macon County is what you're
Yeah,
saying?
go ahead and make it.
and the rest of the changes?
Is there any, what you're talking about, are you gonna address the recitals at the beginning of the document or not? I just wanted to be clear. I think there's been some discussion on where
Sound like we're gonna draft a new resolution, not take action on the one presented.
Just
Well, I understand
the
we're going to
section
section
1 or
one.
section 2, we're just eliminating the entire preamble and just basically that
you would be.
two-sentence, yeah.
Should that be presented to us in the form of a document drafted by someone other than us? We're not in a resolution making business, are we, or?
Sure. I think we could revise that one pretty easily. My guess is there's a word processing file somewhere around for that.
So we just add to the section 1, Macon County, comma, the state of North Carolina and the United States shall establish a transition from a fossil fuel.
No,
Is that what
we
you're
will
saying?
remove the word shall.
Shall.
But if you really want to.
And
Something
No,
along
anyone-
the lines, use their best
I'm fine,
efforts.
I'm honest, I'm fine with shall. I mean, it's really, I mean, we're gonna make every best effort. If we don't
Yeah.
make it, we don't make it, but I think every best effort should.
And I
be
think
made.
that's good. It
We-
puts-
we
sort of
haven't
puts the
tried.
burden on
Yeah,
us
we'll
too. That's
continue.
good.
That's right. But it eliminates the entire preamble.
Yeah. Go ahead and shoot.
So we just add Macon County, comma, the state of North Carolina, the United States shall establish a transition from a fossil fuel-based economy to a 100% clean renewable energy for all energy sectors based economy by January 1, 2050. And I hope to see it, or sooner, to avoid climate catastrophe, to promote job creation, economic growth, and to protect the earth for current and future generations from climate catastrophe.
Go ahead and read your second.
In section 2, this resolution is effective upon adoption.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Do you want to add, sorry, do you want to add that this, with this adoption of the resolution here, that eliminates the preamble of the resolution?
I thought we agreed to that.
Well, I mean, I don't think we need to say that. but we-
It'll just be whenever I sign this resolution.
That's all it'll say.
That's all it'll say is that section 1 and section 2.
We are gonna use shall.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it'll have the title, Resolution of the Macon County, North Carolina Commission. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Michael, let the record reflect a 4-to-1 vote, please. Thank y'all for indulging me in your efforts.
Passes.
Did it pass? Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you, gentlemen, for working our way through that one.
Good job.
Jim, you're up. A2, health billing guide.
Where are we at?
I thought, Sheriff.
We're
A
10,
negative
A
2.
negative 2.
A
This was the
negative.
item that I removed, this is the item that I removed from the consent agenda,
Okay.
which was the health billing guide. Just to give a little background, the health board, as I'm sure most of y'all know, changes their fee structure from time to time due to supply costs or whatever other instances there might be. But there was a few there were no fees in regards to inoculations or anything else that were really exuberant or changed. So the majority of this was put on the consent agenda, but there was one item that was discussed there might be a little bit of a problem with. And that has to go into the, why don't you take it from
Yeah,
here?
what they did is when the Board of Health voted on this, there was a section called Research Fee and Environmental Health that was tabled for further discussion. And they approved the billing guide with that intent. They had a long conversation about it. In the end, they did have a motion, a second, and a unanimous vote to approve the fee. But I've had conversation with our county attorney and Commissioner Tate and several other folks on that fee, and there were some questions raised, and we wanted to be clear before you approve it that you had a little bit of discussion. I brought Kyle Jennings with me to answer any questions with regard to exactly the process that we're talking about. One of the questions that was raised was the public records law and whether this was a violation of public records rules. And I will probably let Chester chime in, but basically we provide from our database a permit to anybody for free. Anybody that comes in and requests a copy of a permit, they get it for nothing. But what's happening now is that the realtors are requiring, somebody's requiring the realtors to have a copy of septic permits whenever a piece of property a transaction occurs, either whether it's a home or a piece of land. So we're getting inundated now with requests for copies of permits. That's not the problem. The problem is that there's a due diligence component to that is being pushed onto the health department to do, which is that we have to go outside of our database, which is what we consider public record for us, to do research in the registered deeds database, the tax database, all these other databases, to find out that a piece of property that Mr. Jones is buying belonged to Ms. Hall, Mr. Higdon, Mr. Tate, Mr. Rowland, Mr. Decker, until we find out that the permit was issued to which one of you. It may not have even been Mr. Decker. It may have been somebody prior to that, but all we're getting is Mr. Jones's name. So the environmental health staff are having to go back and research through all these other databases for this information that are not ours to do. It's something that every realtor in Macon County could go out and do if they did their due diligence.
Basically having to do title work.
Yeah.
To determine the owner of the property at the time the septic system permit issued.
Which then brings up the next question of is that work that they're doing in environmental health, it's not protected by the state because they're not doing it in the name of the state. They're doing it in the name of Macon County. They're going out and trying to find this information. And if one mistake is made and a real estate transaction occurs, who's going to get the blame? If the permit is the wrong permit. Let's say the permit was issued to Mr. Decker, but Mr. Beal bought the property 3 property owners later and made a modification to the permit, but the only name we're given is Mr. Decker's. So we pull out of our database Mr. Decker's permit. But there's been modifications to that permit, the property sells and the transaction occurs, money exchanges hands, deeds are changed, and then the question comes up that we gave them the wrong permit. So there's a lot of concerns being raised by staff, there's a lot of concerns being raised by several other folks, and we wanted to have discussion before you make that decision to charge that fee for research.
Can you tell them what that fee was?
Yeah, the fee is $15 for the first 30 minutes. Per half hour. Yeah.
Minimum of $15.
Yeah. And then for every 30 minutes after that, an additional $15, because some of these, or portion thereof.
In the email that I sent to all of you, how many permits, Kyle, do you know, were requested last 30 days?
128 last month.
128
Yeah.
last month.
And the previous to that, when you look back before all this started and the realtors were requiring this, the most we ever had was about 60 to 68 a month. Now we're doing 128, and it just keeps going up and up and up and up. That basket keeps filling up. We're now impacting closings on other people in their properties. We had one complaint where an individual had to move their closing date because we weren't able to get the research done in time. And it turned out that it was down in the pile. When we pulled it out, because we got the complaint, it took about 30 seconds to do that man's permit, to find that permit, because he had all of the correct information for us. And we could go right to it, and we were done, and we moved on. But we get them where there's 6 or 8 owners of a piece of property, we're getting one name.
So just underlying principle, if we charge a fee, it's not going to speed the process up any. But what it might do is set it up as if, hey, if you go ahead and do this research for us, then
We'll get paid.
Easier, a lot
Correct.
cheaper,
We'll get paid
which
for the
will
research we're doing.
ultimately speed it
Yeah.
up. Okay.
We'll get paid for the research we're doing, or they'll do their own due diligence and they'll do the research themselves
Okay.
and bring us the information we need so that we can print something out of our database that is under the public records rules, and they get it for free.
But it's great news. I mean, it's great news. I mean, if we're getting inundated with people requesting this information, they're buying property, right?
Well, maybe and maybe not. I think what you've seen is some litigation in this area. Unfortunately, what you have with septic systems, you might have one that's set up for a 3-bedroom house, or a 4-bedroom house, or a 5-bedroom house, and it may be permitted, say, for a 3-bedroom house. It may have been an add-on to the house, make it a 4th bedroom, and it's marketed as a 4-bedroom. And unfortunately, what happens in litigation when something goes south, everybody that's been anywhere near it gets sued, including the realtor. And I think what they're may be doing is trying.
We don't know that.
Got a pretty good idea that's where it is.
In North Carolina, there's a real estate commission,
Yeah.
and I'm a realtor.
Oh, there you go.
Damn, call it Scientist, realtor?
Yeah, you almost were, but you didn't show up for class. Environmental health specialist, and I work the septic system, and I utilize your services a lot. I didn't need to take this.
No, you're fine.
And I missed arguing with you since they removed me from the Board of Health, Jim.
And we have, there has been some discussion at the Board of Health, I think initiated by Derek. We have sort of this ultimate goal of what we could do to eliminate this fee and this problem. Can you give us an update on what we're thinking there, Derek? Would you like for me to?
In terms of the
Creating
influx of
our own,
permits, the
yeah.
conversation we
No,
had.
creating our own database, so that they can do their own research.
Should have done it 25 years ago, but.
Yeah, the challenge
I
that
think
we.
that's- I think that would be the ultimate goal.
The challenge that we face with that is that prior to 2008 or 9, when we made the change to tracking everything by PIN number for a piece of property, everything is in name only prior to that, all the way back to 1973, which is how far back our database goes. The problem is that we could make that public, and it's going to take a lot of
But at least it
computer
goes
power to go
goes
back and
so
look.
far anyway.
Yeah, yeah. So
Might cut half of your permits out.
Mhm.
I think using a PIN number from this point forward is a good idea.
Very good idea.
I mean,
We
it may not
yeah.
help those of us that are in this room, but
Yeah.
our grandchildren and beyond will benefit from it to go ahead and implement.
And we have been doing that since about 2008 or 9, in that time frame.
Is anything pre that, Jim, you have to?
Anything
So
prior to that,
anything if after 2008, you can put it up real quick?
pretty much, yeah. If we have the correct information, we can pull it up really quick. But it's getting the 6 or 8
It's
names.
complicated, even
Yeah.
like that.
Mhm.
If I come in today,
No, go, man.
if I come in today and make this request, how long will it take to process that request today?
Come in today with the request for your permit from the house that you live in now. I don't know exactly where we're at, but it'd probably take us, a few days to get to it.
A week, a month?
Not a month.
Unless you're the
Not a
one that
month.
pulled the permit. or
Yeah.
got the permit.
When we met with the Board of Health, we were
30
about a week and a half to 2 weeks behind.
Okay. And currently, what's the average cost that that billing at this 15-minute increment, what's the average cost gonna be to the applicant?
Probably $15. I mean, most of them can be done within an hour.
So if it's $15, and how many are we doing a month?
128. But there's only a small, see, the problem is there's only a small portion of them that are taking that long, but they're taking a lot of research time. So if you look at if you look at just the few are going to pay more than $15. There will be a couple that might pay in the $15 range, but the majority are going to get them for free. But what's happening is we get that one that sticks in the pile that takes forever. And we've started making accommodations. If a realtor comes in and says, I've got a closing tomorrow, that's going to the top of the pile. Problem is if you start doing that, everybody will be coming in with, yeah.
You've got some that may not have easy
With the closing, it goes to the top of the pile.
Beyond the expertise
yeah.
of the staff or the help.
Well,
May even require some survey work to determine.
Yeah, we're not title searchers.
Go ahead, Paul.
How many other environmental health sections in the state charge a research fee?
All right.
Kyle did the research already.
Looked around to local, so the counties that are surround us, as far as Haywood. Haywood will charge $2 for every single one that they do, regardless of the amount of time spent. And then they bill the real estate office at the end of the month. Nobody else at current is charging, but this is kind of a newish problem for everybody. Everybody else is telling me that, man, if you find a solution to this, tell me what it is. Most other counties are going through this right now, so. And before Chester alluded to the change, and Jim, the change in real estate law, before the change in the real estate law and properties weren't moving as much, it wasn't as big of a deal. Now we're getting all of these requests, and we're getting busier in every other aspect, and that's why this has become such an issue. Our last 2 quarters have been the busiest quarters we've had in 9 years.
What is the change? What was the change in real estate law? What is the
Oh,
change?
well, there's been some lawsuits, and I look over these selling 2-bedroom houses. Or houses with septic systems with a
Two-bedroom septic system.
2-bedroom, and it's a 4, or I have done one in Highlands that was 7 bedrooms
Yeah.
on a 2-bedroom system. That was not disclosed at the time of purchase.
Correct.
And they're marketed as 7 bedrooms.
Marketed as. Now,
They only have
before
a
you can,
permit for 2.
before you can put it in the MLS, you have to, beyond a reasonable doubt, prove what that septic system is in the ground. And there
Correct.
was some lawsuits, I don't remember where they were at, but that just takes one. The document, when these people come in and make this request, what document do they have to provide you? Application, do they?
We have a form.
Could you not streamline that to specifically that you only research these names and not get into this title search?
We can, we could choose to do that. I guess that's kind of, we have always done this research.
That's the thing,
so
is historically,
it's
we
been
have
what we do.
helped out that way.
Well, we are a public service agency, absolutely.
Yeah, so we've always helped. So on our form, we've got it here. I can pass it around if you'd like to see it.
No, I mean your form for, oh, is that the form for
That's it.
research?
Yeah, and so it says, it asks for all the current names, or all the names of the people that have owned the property in the
I'd
past.
simplify that baby a whole lot.
We're working on it. So
That's a,
because of this issue, we're working on it. But
that's
it
a
has,
legal nightmare there.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think the main thing they need is a name, and if at all possible, an approximate date when the permit issued, and y'all ought to be able to locate that pretty
And
quick.
all of the previous owners to that point.
Well, no, I'm talking about if they know, if they already have
Oh.
done their own research and know who got the permit,
The,
if you've got that name and you've got the approximate date of position, I think you'll locate it pretty quick.
The one issue with that is that over time, septic systems and houses change, so you do want to know those previous owners. So you want to know if they've done an addition, you want to know if they've had to have a repair.
Good point.
So we do want to know those previous owners, all of those
Well,
previous owners.
and owners later, because they could've came in and gotten a modification.
We, to get your, all your information, you want the owner's time his house was built, all those owners through the current owner.
Yeah.
And if we have those names and we don't have to search, that's not a problem.
And they should provide that for you.
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
Yeah, I think if they.
We're trying to
provide
push
those
them in that
names to
direction.
you, I think at that point, it becomes a public records, thing, and I'm not so sure you need to be charging for research at that point.
And not if it, not, we're not, and we never have. If it's in our database, it's not. And it's the point from when we have to leave our database to go out and research all these other systems for this information, and then we come back to our database. That's the time that we're looking to get reimbursed for. Once we're back in our database again and we're pulling it up, that time doesn't count. So if it takes us 10 minutes more because we got to go into our database again to go find that name, that's on us. But it's that time from when we leave our database or leave the documents that we have and have to go out and do the research through the Register of Deeds and other offices within the county for them.
We've identified a problem. I think we need to identify a solution without necessarily fees, because we haven't. And
So
we've
what they're
discussed.
doing, when they get a listing, Paul need to come in and list his house with Carl Gillespie Realty. Carl automatically goes, he's gonna go ahead and get Paul Higgins to have part of his package in case he gets a buyer for Paul's house.
That's the ideal time.
That's-
for it to be done.
That's gonna go ahead and do that, and then we'll have to do the
20 minutes before
research on Paul's house.
Which is the case.
But you could really simplify this.
We're working on that,
How you working on it?
We're just modifying the form so that it fits what we're trying to do. So we just want the owners, previous owners, we want the year that the house was built.
And this is a form I can get to electronically.
Yeah,
Yes.
right now, that's actually printed off the website right now. We'll have to upload a new form.
Did y'all consider doing like Haywood County, making it like $5 $5 a pop instead of the $2 a pound.
That runs into public records law and fees
I mean,
that you
you
can
know,
charge.
I haven't seen any case law on it, but I think if you have a system within your government for storing your records, i.e. your permits that you've issued, somebody comes in and says, I need the permit that was issued to Ronnie Bill in 1985 for lot such and such, and that's the way you search their records. I think they can pull that up, and I think they can say you can look at it as long as you want to, and it won't cost you a dime. If you want a copy lawfully, I don't think you can charge any more than what this county pays to make that.
To make that copy.
I'll tell you where I'm leaning with this, is that we don't approve a fee for this now. I think we need to give it a 30-day time trial, and maybe see if we can't get to the real estate agencies in Franklin, Highlands, Nantahala. Let's give them some type of an email blast or even a letter.
There are. They're working on a
Here's
letter.
the problem we're having. Here's why it's so slow. If y'all could help us do this research, things can be sped up a lot faster. Or even when they bring it in, is there a way we can say, hey, if you've already done this research, we'll get it back to you a lot quicker than if you don't. I mean, y'all see where I'm going with this versus charging them a fee?
That email's
just see if it
prepared
tries.
pending
Okay.
time.
Yeah, and
They are ahead of us.
Kyle's also put together,
Thank
he's
you.
working on a presentation to do at the realtor meetings in both Highlands and down here.
When we have this thing sort of modified, Kyle, to suit what you think will be good?
Well, it's actually already been changed, but it can be changed again based on your suggestions pretty quickly this week, so.
Simpler the better, I mean.
It actually looks similar to other forms everywhere else is using, because we try to get as much information as possible if we need it when we go to do research. So you kind of have a conflict between simplification and trying to have all the information necessary, but.
You're not title searchers.
And, well, that's the question
That's
I was
right.
gonna say.
At
and
the end of the
that's-
day, they're not,
yeah.
the health department is not a title searcher.
And
agency.
Then they don't need to be in that business.
No.
If they'd provide us the correct name, we wouldn't have to do the title, we wouldn't have to be in that business. And so if we had permission just to say, because you're gonna get calls, but if we had permission just to say, you know, if you give us these 4 names, we're gonna research these 4 names.
But if
there's 2 other names associated with it, we're not going to search for those other 2 names.
How far back does the record go?
73, I think, 1973. 73.
If you're issuing them now with the parcel PIN number on them, obviously.
It's a whole lot easier to
It'll
find.
be a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
So, I think that's a great practice and should continue.
Has there been any more collective discussion about lowering some of our astronomically high permit fees on the on-site program?
Not at the Board of Health meeting.
Pardon?
Not at Board of Health. Kyle did make a comment. Do you remember exactly what you said about about fee changes? Potential, I think Commissioner
Yeah,
Tate
I
asked the
had a
question about,
discussion, yeah.
you know, if there were any environmental health fees that were,
You know, basically my thought is, I was asked how I feel about our fees, and
that's what it was.
That
Yeah,
was it.
that was it.
in the end, basically, that's really up to you guys to determine where you want the money for our department to come from. We want fees or general fund or whatever. I'll be glad to work with you on structure and.
Well, I think out of fairness to the consumer, our fees, some of them, you and I, you know exactly what I'm targeting, and you do too. I've talked about it for 4 years, and there's just no move off center. I mean, we're just astronomically, we're just.
Let's put on one of our future health board meetings.
We can do
Let's go
that.
ahead and discuss that. Back on point with this, I don't think we need a motion. We need a motion and a full vote to do the items that were on the consent agenda, the other health billing items, and we just remove this one
I think
from
you
it.
can
and
approve
then
it subject to the removal of this one item.
Okay.
You
We get a
can
motion,
bring that
we'll
up
take
at
care
a
of
later
that.
date.
At the end of the consent, you'll do it when we do the consent.
we can just do it now. I removed the whole thing from the consent, so. But these other items were on the consent agenda except for this one topic. So we can get a motion to approve the changes to the health billing guide that were on the consent agenda. If y'all would like to look at them, we can real quick. They were approved unanimously by the health board. And if not, I'm thinking just to, did I get a nod of heads on the
You
other,
approve, Mr. Chairman?
which we're not gonna, yes.
So I make a motion, we approve all the other the health department recommendations other than the one that,
The research fee.
the research fee, and make a motion that they be approved.
We got a motion. We got a second. Any further discussion?
Jim, are you good with all of those?
I'm good with all of those, yes, sir.
All in favor? Aye. So then on the research fee, I don't think we need a motion or a vote.
We don't
on
need a
this. We
motion.
just
We
need
can take it back to the board.
non-for you to- Yeah, but we're not gonna approve
Correct.
any change at this point. Let's see if we can.
And we can take it up at next Board of
There's
Health
some
meeting, and I'll see if I can get
But where we at
our
on
county attorney to
well-
give us an
about how far
opinion.
we at on well permits?
Oh, yeah, good.
Well permits are
Article would
less
be
than a
great
week.
on that.
Yeah, the last one was 4 days.
We're getting to well permits in about a week, less than a week.
That's a good news too.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, that were, I remember when they, what, 30 minutes.
When we were trying to keep the goal under 21 days, 21 work days. Yeah, I remember
I
that.
mean, I'm glad we were, I mean, that's good news.
And
Yeah,
and
we are-
Ronnie, you bring up I think a really valid point. You know, we've hoped for economy to come back and hope for real estate sales to come back, hope for building to come back. And the you know, we sit here and talk about economic development, and, you know, Tommy works hard to do things in that regard. You know, I think the county departments need to be in a position, we need to make sure that they have the means, resources that they need, so that hopefully as this thing continues to gather momentum, and our economy becomes stronger than it is, and these, we have the needs for permits and inspections and things of that nature, that we can do those in my opinion, we need to do them in a very extremely timely fashion. Because, and Ronnie, you can speak to this, and Paul, you know, for those of us that's in the business, and Jimmy, for those of us that's in the business, the quicker that we can get in and get out and get on to the next one, you know, the better off we are. So
Yeah,
Still
the number.
what wags the dog in this.
Yeah, the number
Ain't
one.
mistaken.
Yeah, the number one posting in the state on our listservs is environmental health positions right now. I mean, it's everywhere, all over the state, except for Western North Carolina.
And
No, but,
if we
yeah.
really wanted to do something, these fees that are related to construction industry, it would not cost us that much money to really just waive all those fees. $600,000 a year, maybe.
About 165,000 a year, I think.
On
is what we-
yours, buildings, what, Jack,
On ours.
400 now? $600,000 a year, waive all those related fees. What kind of a marketing tool would that be for Macon County? I mean, we spend $500,000 to
I've
draw
never
the
had a
hat.
customer that said that we wouldn't build a house because of the building permit.
Well, it's an accepted thing. 25% of the cost of construction is related to fees and regulations.
How much?
Fees and regulations, 25% of the National
In Macon
Association of Home
County?
Builders, nationwide.
Well, I don't build nationwide, I just build Macon County.
You need to join the National Association of
I
Home
don't
Builders.
build nationwide, I just build here.
But, you know, if we wanted to do something different, if we're interested in stimulating one industry, which is the backbone of our economy, but we can't seem to get to that point of discussion.
Well, Commissioner Tate asked at our last Board of Health meeting that we do something related to environmental health at each board meeting for a while.
Yeah,
And,
just give us an update on it.
yeah, so, and we will more than likely be discussing fees. I would say that's gonna
Fill
come.
that for you, Jimmy?
You're welcome
And,
to any of those meetings. Come
yeah.
on.
As long as there's only two of you.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so I think two things are coming out of that. One is that there's going to be some communication with help from the media. Hint, hint. And number two, Derek's going to try and research to see if we can't start getting some of this, a database built that we can have online. Sound fair, Mr. Manager?
Yes, sir.
Our whole system is scanned into the county, so.
Brittany, we were just asking for assistance with marketing this.
Yes, of course.
All right. That it for me? Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys have a great
Good
night.
evening. All right, we're finally moving to new business. Do you want to have anybody need a break? Would like a break?
That's what we got. We just got.
We got new business.
But I got the letter, I just wanna do something.
Let's call a 5-minute recess. Is that good? 5 minutes?
See, yeah.
Enough before I get out voted. Big vote.
working 3 days a week for the next couple of weeks. That ends up being We changed our geo program from first choice to where instead of doing individual, we're doing type. So to try to get more people involved, and I'm so glad that they funded it.
You never have to climb up any trees and watch
I mean, there's places in the Midwest, just tons of these massive turbines just in the
I mean, I'll ask him. Sprinkle those newspapers, because they're looking at how big it is to town.
You'll appreciate this. When I was graduating environmental health, my senior project decided why we should be using nuclear power. Why we should be. My professors were like, you realize this is our real threat. And we got the hospital. They didn't agree with me, but that's the reason.
Let's go. Solar farm. Say all these freaking trees. What? It's not to me, I didn't want to get in a call. Once in every thing, this was I don't express myself.
That's the last thing to go, the first thing we've had in school.
Once it worked, and it worked. If I was making, that's how we are.
It's the worst shape. If I come in and get a apartment, I can stay for 48 hours and I'm staying.
There is no making it eliminates.
Here's why I subscribe to global warming. It's irrelevant.
I was making the call. Clean air, I was just environmental health.
That's what it's
I got a motorcycle.
Today, you need, what do you need? Notice the fees, acquisition by the county.
Yeah, go to.
My granddaughter's 3.5 years old. My grandson's 15 months. Years.
I guess that works too. Yeah, right.
Yep. You need attorney-client stuff or from the board? Hey, hold on a minute. I think that exception deals with acquisition.
Back in God's country now, so to speak.
The on 4-bedroom improvements and construction authorized $2,000. They go to Jackson County, get the same thing for 4-bedroom, 4 times 8 is $320. For ID, and I come in later and get your CA, it's $80. So it's $1,200. We'll see what we can do. The same thing we get Macon County for $2,000. And he said, well, we try to encourage them to file first. So you want permits up front and just pay it out. No, that's not your decision. You know, you're monkeying with so, and my philosophy is that where this theory came that hey, environmental health and building inspections have to be standalone or self-supporting.
Yeah.
We subsidize the sheriff's office, we subsidize the government, we subsidize everything else. The reason we're in this fee structure. You're always trying to milk it down too much anyway. The reason government instituted fee structures is they saw a chance to have revenue off of a commodity, off of the building industry. And that is, when I said 25%, the National Association of Builders said now construction in the United States is based on fees and regulations. Yeah, $2,500 fee to build a house. When you look at the fees on the ground, fees and regulations associated with all buildings, they're cumulative. This fair market is 25%. So if we could just eliminate just one fee, we can't do any regulations for that. And I just think we can do something. We raised our fees last year from $9 million. That's what we took in excess of projected revenue. We're for $500,000 or $600,000. We waived those fees, marketed across North Carolina, and I don't not necessarily the market value.
No, I don't get you in trouble.
Yeah, he's with me. It's been since he's 12 years old. Ever since.
You wouldn't believe what I'm dealing with to try to do prenatal care. So you wouldn't believe what I'm dealing with to try to get somebody to do prenatal care right now.
Yeah, I would, because my daughter is.
It's insane.
She has to go to Harris or Mission and take whoever is on call.
Yeah, exactly.
It's, but I think Middleton needs to be getting out. I got to guarantee your phone.
What's happening?
More importantly, what Tuesday night was nothing going on.
Robin threw me out for a while.
This weekend.
There's a seed here. I can't get in trouble. Well, I can't.
Let me go streamline, just like we do everybody.
sir. You will contact our whole state line anywhere, okay?
And it's 6
Nice.
times.
It would be.
That's a big part of it.
And this
5 minutes up.
I'm sending
Medicaid, uninsured indigents.
Even if they experience the sad part is this. All those people with him as organizations. Virus pregnancies and all these other we deal with kind of like you question.
It's all going away. You can't run a system if you cover.
High-level conference.
You can't survive. Yeah, we got to get started. I'll get hungry again.
Doing good, brother.
Stand up to get a hug.
Good seeing you, girl. Yes. You asked me if he didn't take the surgery. No, wait, Friday.
Jimmy leave to us.
Supposed to leave Saturday to go to Jacksonville to get some stuff. Bring it to me. So I'm gonna get my boys to go. Yeah, that's one of my reasons I'm excited to go. He gets down about every.
This is something that's in session.
Just talk about. Go back. He'll drive back.
I'll mail it to you, like you did.
For me to get
And I did bring it. Tonight.
Oh.
So you gonna move it on
But
that?
anyway, bring Justin back.
It's going good.
Commissioner Higdon? Commissioner Higdon? Commissioner Higdon?
Sir.
Would you like to visit some other time?
That's
Come on,
okay.
come on up and let's conduct some business. I'm getting hungry.
Hungry.
Where's the engineer for this?
Legal counsel.
You're supposed to be the engineer.
Call our meeting back to order. Unless I see a head shake no from the board, we're gonna move item 11C to the forefront. Everybody good with that? NC DOT request for secondary road abandonment. My understanding is Mr. Russell is not going to be present. Commissioner Bill, I think you sit on those.
That's right. Andy Russell contacted me. He had an emergency tonight, could not be with us. But if you've read the agenda, of course, we have the owner here with us representing the association. And they have requested abandonment of about 600 feet of road.
608 feet.
And the reason, I understand that the reason for the abandonment of the road is they've been having some problems. Up there, I want to put an entrance in to the from there, that point on up. And if you read in the agenda, you will see that the property owners from that point up have all signed a release form supporting the abandonment of that section of DOT. Mr. Russell says that he has no with it, and with the owner of the subdivision here tonight, and he can certainly come forward and explain more for any questions the board may have. But with that, with Mr. Russell and with what's submitted in the agenda. Page 20, I can't find it. Well, I'm looking for what I keep.
Ms. Vernon, anything?
Ms. Vernon, tell me whatever you want to say.
Well, basically, the road was, when I got there in '03, I guess it was nothing more than a wagon trail through. It was nothing. And that was maybe the first, let's say, 100 feet or so. And then we turned it and went up the side. The DOT said, well, we're not going to build that portion of it. If you want it, you build it. So I built that. So basically, since 2000, not been maintaining the road. The property owners have, and I'm the president of that association. Right now, the community, and I understand we're not alone, are being terrorized by partiers, man. I mean, it is bad. I've got residents out there. There's 14 very nice, nicely big homes out there, and they're calling the sheriff's department on a regular basis. So they wanted to put a gate up there. Well, that little stretch is owned by the DOT. It can never go any further. It goes into a loop road there, and that's all owned by the association. So it can't go any further. Actually, the DOT comes out better too, because the current turnaround is on maybe a 12% grade, I'm guessing. You go like this, and if you back up, you'll hit a Duke transformer, like a school bus turnaround or a snowplow. You'll hit a Duke transformer if you go too far, and you go a little bit further, and you're going to go down about 100 feet and probably end up in a pond. So we've got a section right down there at the entrance that I've already built it. It's a nice little flat area that they'll turn around and everything else. Like I said, the DOT's been out there. You know, I've worked with them for like 6 months now. So it's pretty straightforward. Everybody will be better off for it.
If we haven't received any notices of disagreement with this, and all your homeowners in the neighborhood are in agreement, I think it's.
Yeah, they've all signed.
Say it's a no-brainer.
Very good.
Motion
to approve.
Mr. Chairman,
We got a motion to approve.
you got, how would you make a motion?
Yeah.
Second.
Got a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
You're welcome.
So
Have a
what
good
this
evening.
minute bill, I think he did say, Mr. Attorney, that there's a resolution.
I think Mike received a copy of one today.
Well, there is a resolution. That's what he sent you guys.
Yeah.
Mr. Russell said resolution was not part of the agenda package. There was no resolution in the package.
But there is a resolution.
Mr. Russell sent me a copy of one, or a model of one late this afternoon.
Oh, okay.
We just need some time to get that in the right format and then have the chairman sign it if the board's in
So
agreement.
it's the same, it says basically the same thing. We want to make sure that Bill's aware of the resolution too.
I know he was going to make one. I don't know. All I know is what he sent me.
I think we need to put that upon Chester's approval, and I'll sign it. If y'all are all in agreement with that. Is that okay, Chester?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, sir. Thank you, Vernon. Representative Corbin, welcome. This is the first time you've been back? I guess it is, since
This proves we have nothing to do.
And this beautiful wife Beth with you.
We went to the Sunset and had supper and thought we'd pop in and see how y'all doing.
if you'd like to relive some memories, I'll share.
This is the first Tuesday in 6 months that I've been in Franklin. So I just want to come by and say hello.
We're glad you're here.
Yeah, we're happy to
Good
have
to see you, Kev.
Proud, definitely proud of your
Well,
effort.
A whole lot
Good to
better to
see
see
you.
you, Beth.
All right. Item 11A, award a vehicle bid for Macon County Sheriff's Office.
Sir, Mr. Chairman, if you'll find it in your agenda packet, we received bids from 3 different dealerships. Jackie Jones Ford was the lowest responsible bidder with 6 vehicles at $181,972.92. This has been, these funds are already been appropriated during the budget process. All the commissioners are doing at this point is accepting the lowest responsible bid from Jackie Jones Ford and awarding the bid.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion?
I think you'd want to authorize your county manager to sign the requisite contracts.
And amending my motion to say what the county attorney said.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
We normally just do a purchase order.
Item 11B, NCIC inmate phone services contract. County Attorney.
There is in agenda package the NCIC inmate phone services contract. I have worked in conjunction with Steve Stewart of the Sheriff's Department, Sheriff Holland. We've made the changes to that document as is required. I recommend approval.
When will this be effective?
It'd be effective upon the signature of the county. It's already been signed, I understand, by the.
And we've terminated the old service.
That is my understanding.
Okay.
Purchase new equipment for this.
It is provided by the vendor.
By the vendor.
Any questions, or the chair will entertain a motion?
I'd make a motion that we accept it.
Motion approved and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We've done item 11C. Item 11D, resolution regarding the Community Care Clinic of Franklin. Chester?
Each year, the county health department enters into some arrangements with various organizations to provide some space within the health department buildings. In this particular case, this is the Community Care Clinic of Franklin. In your agenda package, there's a resolution to basically declare that space surplus and authorize the entry of the lease, which is attached to the resolution. This is just an annual lease for that.
Jim, I know this is in your building. You do kosher.
Yeah, they use the clinic on Monday and Wednesday nights for the free clinic down here. We're good.
Y'all are good with it? Need a motion to
Motion
approve?
approved.
Motion.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The same resolution regarding the Community Care Clinic of Highlands.
Motion.
Got a motion to approve?
Second.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Higdon, Gillespie. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, Mike. I like this. He's having a tough time keeping up with us tonight. A resolution regarding community care of Western North Carolina.
Good. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution regarding one-year lease to the state of North Carolina Children's Development Services agencies.
Good. Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, no. Go. Lost my chance.
Aye.
I was going to ask you where that space was at, Jim.
What's that? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Never mind.
No.
We voted, it's done. It's
Right with Highlands Chamber of Commerce.
As you are aware, the Highlands Chamber of Commerce basically helps and assists the county and the, help me with the name, the TDC.
Occupancy tax revenues.
Spends the occupancy tax revenues. There is a need to basically, unless you're going to discontinue that arrangement with the Chamber of Commerce, you need to update your contract so that we have one in place. I prepared one that would continue the exact same terms that you're under.
Chester, just a quick question. Can you tell me what happens, just some crazy, strange reason, Chamber of Commerce folds, runs off, whatever, what happens to like their property, assets? Does that come back to the county, or is there something listed? I didn't see anything in the contract. Or is there a reason to list any of that stuff?
I think to the extent that you have a situation where the chamber ceases to do what's required of it under the contract as a result of a breach or discontinuance of operations or otherwise, then this contract's going to come to an end, and you'll be in a position to where you can make alternative arrangements.
Okay. Need a motion to approve?
So move.
Need a motion to approve?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bill. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I wanna go to the wedding.
I wanna go too.
Middle really
I'll
wants to
go
go to
with
the wedding. Do you know the people, Jimmy?
I know.
Yes, you
I
do.
know where the
Yes,
place
you
is.
do.
I know.
You done the landscaping now.
Permit to conduct fireworks display.
Motion to adopt.
Let's slow down a minute. Do we have an application?
No. Yes, received it today. Received it today.
I've not seen it. I'm assuming it's in order. If it is in order, then it'd be appropriate.
So by September the 30th, you want to review that, or do you have, I mean, where we at? That's kind of
I think You can approve it subject to approval, to my review and approval.
So move to the wording.
You got his insurance in here, right? That's all his insurance
Yeah,
policy.
got
Yeah.
His picture.
A motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
We got one, a motion to approve in a
Second.
second. We got a second, all in favor?
Aye.
That is a high dollar wedding.
Satisfaction of security instrument for Laurel E. Barnes.
This is another one of those housing program projects. The time period for the individual requesting the satisfaction of the mortgage has passed. Mr. Fay has assured me that all conditions for canceling it have been met, and it's time to cancel that as of record.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
2017 NCACC Annual Conference Voting Delegate. I think as of right now, we only have an individual
I will
stepping
be
up.
there.
I'm still riding the fence. I'm gonna try and get there.
Motion to nominate Ronnie Bill.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The consent agenda with the changes of, we already went over the health billing guide, and budget amendments changed from number 5 to number 4.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have some appointments. First one is for the health board. I believe it's for the dentist position.
Nathan Brenner.
Nathan Brenner, and he better get approved.
It's
He
a
just-
reappointment,
Yeah, he better get approved. He just got elected chairman of the
elected
health board,
chairman,
so.
Motion to approve.
Motion to
Nathan Brenner.
approve.
Second.
Got a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Now, the funding pool, are these terms available for reappointment? Mr. Manager, do you know that?
The funding pool, if I'm not mistaken, this is not the only board that we put term limits on was the planning board. If I'm not mistaken.
So they are,
So they're available for.
I mean, I don't,
No, I think we
like
did it all
Vince,
boards.
I don't know how.
I think we did it all boards.
How is Vince? I mean, Vince is a wonderful one on the board, but I just wonder how Vince is.
He moved, didn't
He moved.
he? He went
Yeah.
south.
Vince.
Oh, yeah.
Vince moved.
I know he's moved close to his daughter or.
Vince,
So,
I'll have to look into
Mark, are
that.
those people listed, when you said their terms have expired, does that mean they've been on there for 2 terms, or is that?
Their current term has simply expired.
Okay, because I know like Cindy Reed's been on there since I've been on
Well, those
the
folks have
board,
been
so.
long-time members of that particular committee.
Do we, let's see, that funding pool, they start meeting in September, correct?
They'll start pretty soon.
We have time to research that if need be.
We'll get up the bylaws and look at it.
You don't advertise that? Put it on the web?
I think some of those people already served their 2 terms.
Okay.
so.
We'll advertise that, double check the term.
Okay. Mike, I think we also have, I know we have, just per the recreation meeting earlier today, we have 2 seats open. One by Mr. West, and then there was another one, I think we had a resignation. So I think we have 2 seats that'll be popping up on recreation as well.
Someone could send me now, I'm sure they can.
I'll ask Seth.
We still have to open it on the planning board as well.
Yeah, and I think we have one on 2 on the health board. We have 3 on the health board.
3. You have a physician position open, an engineer position open, and an optometrist position open.
What was the last one, Jim?
Optometrist, and that's the one that we've been trying to recruit since February of last year. That we've sent letters, and now we've, at the county attorney's request, we made telephone contact with all of the optometrists, and we had one that was riding the fence that said back to Derek, but I don't know if he ever got back to you, so.
Can it be an ophthalmologist or a?
It can be an ophthalmologist or an optometrist, and we've sent letters to all of them, we've made phone calls to all of them. It's to the point now where if the Board of Commissioners so desired, they could appoint a citizen to that position until an optometrist or ophthalmologist steps forward and says they want to be on the board. or until the individual's term expires.
When did you send those letters?
The letters went out last year. I mean, it's been
Oh, it's
probably
been a
8
year
months.
already?
Yeah, and probably the last 2 months, I made all the phone calls at the attorney's request. And we had one, Dr. Ron Campbell, who was on the board before Paul was running on there, when Dr. Campbell was on there.
So I think we can go ahead and advertise for the three.
We can advertise for all three, a
All three
physician, an
spots.
engineer, they have to be a North Carolina licensed engineer, they have to be a North Carolina licensed physician, or a North Carolina licensed optometrist, and they have to live in Macon County. It's gotta be a licensed public engineer, PE. I have a list, there's, I think, 8 or 9 in Macon County.
And who mandates that, the state?
The legislature, yeah, it's in the general statute.
Legislature.
Too restrictive.
More of that legislature stuff, veto everything.
Oh, no, they've got some good things to do.
They put the picture in the paper.
They're friends of public health.
And a good-looking picture, I might add.
All right, so I'll, Mike will have Seth email you. Sounds like we're advertising.
Community Funding Pool, Recreation Commission.
And I'll have Seth email you those. So. Planning board 2, planning board there's
One.
one.
We'd like to have.
The Highlands, that's right.
We'd like to have some.
I may even mention that.
I think there's 7.
That'd be good.
Yeah, but we've talked to all of them, none of them want to do it. The only one that we had any luck with was Dr. Campbell, but so if you have any influence with Ron Campbell.
No.
I would. He was great when he was on that.
Any reason for a closed session? I haven't been made aware of one yet.
A train following that.
No, Mr. Chairman.
Baggage following that train.
Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. We didn't get to do that last month.
So
I will make that motion. Here's
Got
your
a
note.
motion by Gillespie, second by Bill. All in favor?
Here you go.